I think that you're going to have to be a little bit realistic, to be blunt. And I'm afraid I went through this as well. So no. The reality is that the absolute stellar intellectual sets are looking for the absolute top first-class degree.
Yeah.
And you haven't got one, and nor have I.
That sounds right. I mean, I think one of the things I've always looked at is I've always wanted to go to the best places.
I mean, there's no suggestion that you should be going to anything other than a really good set, in my view. But just knock out the top 6.
Okay.
When you applied to them before, they've turned you down.
Yeah.
I mean, for example, you applied to Moncton or not?
Yes, I did, yeah.
And what did they say?
No. And not even to interview.
And you presumably applied to Brick Court, Essex Court, Blackstone,
Yeah.
20 Essex Street,
Yeah.
1 Essex Court,
Yeah.
3 Verulam buildings.
No.
I think we should think about you going to 3 Verulam buildings. I mean, applying to 3 Verulam buildings. They're a very good set.
I've known from being at university how hard it is to get into this career, which is why I think at the moment I'm still not completely depressed by it. I mean, every rejection is, you just think, crikey, when is someone just going to give me a chance? But I've always known it's going to be hard, and I guess that's something that's going to make it even more worthwhile when I get it. And maybe I'll be that little bit more experienced, that little bit more mature, so that once I do get it, I'll be really good at it, rather than going fresh from bar school and maybe being a little more inexperienced. So I have that on my side, and everything happens for a reason.
There are now more law students than ever before, but the number of jobs at the bar remains the same.
My pupillage, and people have to tell the students this nowadays, they look at me in disbelief. I only ever had 1 pupillage interview. It was a much smaller and easier thing in those days. I think now it is much more difficult to get a good pupillage. And I think one of the challenges that we as a bar have got is to work out how it is that we can increase the number of pupillages whilst at the same time providing the funding that means that people will be able to take advantage of those pupillages and won't start their careers with all this horrendous debt. I think it's a big challenge.
Birmingham is the largest legal centre outside London, and St Philip's is one of the busiest chambers.
Yes, I've seen St Philip's, yeah, very well.
A team of clerks manage barristers' diaries and negotiate their fees. Head clerk is Mark Mansell.
No clerk wants to be thought of as clerking a Muppet Chambers or a Muppet Barrister, and I'm fortunate that I don't do either. We've got a very good chambers, a very good setup, and I am fortunate to have a very good team of barristers behind me.
Louise McCabe has been a barrister for 12 years, specialising in divorce law. She's working with a solicitor to persuade their client to settle his divorce out of court.
It comes to a point where it's effectively going to be a commercial decision, right, because you're going to spend £10,000 finding out whether you're going to get your best case or your worst case scenario. She's going to spend £10,000 to do the same, and who profits out of that? The lawyers. Right. So I think you can say, thank you very much, Louise, that's very interesting, but I choose to have my fight, and I would rather pay the. I mean, I've had people say to me before, I'd rather give the money to the lawyers than I would to her. I don't personally think that's particularly sensible. It's absolutely your choice. So we'll look at that, and if we can, by the end of the afternoon, I think we will have done you a service if we can walk out of here knowing that there's an offer that Claire can make.
High maintenance McCabe, as we refer to her. I must confess she's very well liked. She's very busy, and for her general level of experience, she's probably streets ahead of everybody in Birmingham.
I've done, that's her bike right, that's it in the shed. There's an ongoing auction that's going on at eBay tonight, and that's where...
Oh, it's her bike.
It's a similar bike, and...
Someone's selling it.
No, really. No, it's not hers.
Right, well...
It's a similar bike and it's worth up to 18,500. It's a matter
Well,
of debate.
now, of course, I don't know anything about the... Do I know anything about the mileage?
You do, yeah. The mileage for that one is 9,000, so...
You know what the mileage on that is?
5.5 maximum.
Well, look, do you want to... Why don't we send this to the side and say, we'll get some copies of this before we leave Chambers. Claire can send it.
It's just...
Like you to agree.
No,
Mind you, that's of course current bid, isn't it? Have you got the...
It's current bid, and I'll watch it tonight.
Well, then you'll have to let Claire know on Monday.
Right.
When does the auction end?
Tonight, 8 o'clock.
Right, okay.
Right.
We'll all be watching.
Yeah.
Iqbal has lived in Birmingham all his life, and his upbringing shaped his ambition.
My mum got divorced twice, so I had very early exposure to, family law as a system and family law practitioners, barristers and solicitors. I found it quite interesting, and I thought, the legal professionals had a potential here, much more than in any other area of law, to affect somebody's life and affect their emotional interests and deliver for them something, that they really, really wanted, much more than money, a peace of mind, a just settlement. So it was something that really, really attracted me to law itself from the very, very beginning.
Iqbal is torn between pupilages in London or Birmingham. Today he's got an interview at St Philip's.
St Philip's is a good mix of all of the positive things about London Chambers and all of the benefits, of the provinces, basically. So that's one of the reasons why I applied, and also it's one of the best chambers in Birmingham. I think it's up there in the top 2, so that's the reason I applied here.
There are 30 candidates competing for 4 places.
Not at stake. It's it's a pretty difficult chambers to get into, and I'm sure the calibre of the candidates will be very, very high today, which is quite stressful.
It'll be a fortnight before he finds out whether he's got the job. Louise has now spent 4 hours unravelling the financial details of her client's 11-year marriage.
This level of sort of bitterness and emotion is quite usual. It's quite usual, and what is so difficult is, of course, for a human being, it's all about the emotion. I'd be exactly the same if I was in his position, but what I'm having to tell him is, leave that completely to one side, ignore it, and I think that's very difficult for a person to do. So it's still very raw, and it can be very raw 10 years on in plenty of cases. So, right. If I speak completely bluntly, I think it would be foolish of you not to make an offer, to try. I'm not saying she'll accept 10. She may say, no, I want to have my fight, and actually 10 is too low, and I'd rather go and spend it on the lawyers than let him get away with having that. But to just absolutely stick to our position and not make any offer.
Yeah. Now
we've looked at the figures, seems to me, I wouldn't want to do that with my money. I mean, look, I'm talking myself out of a 3-day job. I'll probably end up out of court those 3 days, so there's no benefit to me in you settling this, but I just think it would be wrong of us not to try.
Yeah. Do we have to make it 10,000 though? Can we make it 5? Can we play brinkmanship? Go right to the days, court days, right? Make her spend the money?
No, because, let me answer that completely honestly. £5,000, I wouldn't suggest you make that offer because it's very, very easy to turn down. It's not a well-pitched offer. 10, I think, is unlikely to be accepted, but might be. They might sit there and go, God, that's a really well-pitched offer because we think we can do better, but it's just enough that we think, all right, we'll take it. We can't really do brinkmanship because your costs are all incurred. Claire's got to make me a bundle. The other side are going to have bundles. My brief fee will become payable. I mean, you can't ring up 5 o'clock the night before and say, well, some people try to, but, so costs are running from this point. It's not all £10,000 on the day of the hearing. The costs are incurred from this point onwards.